It's a great day for wrestling because we are wrestling with WWE Clash at the Castle review. No news this week. Because we'll be getting into the fallout of All Out a little later. But Clash at the Castle. It was September 3rd. It took place in Cardiff, Wales at the Principality Stadium with an attendance of 62,296.
Principality Stadium.
Alright, as a whole, this show, honestly, I enjoyed. It was like a low key WrestleMania with maybe not as many high profile matches, but the just the setting alone was um just fantastic. But
What do you mean?
what
What do you mean low key? Low key wasn't there.
because the name's Cesaro.
I let's move on.
Drew, your thoughts on the show as a whole?
Honestly, it was a show that I enjoyed. To be honest with you, it was one of those shows that it surprised me on a lot of levels, and they kept it short and sweet with only having about 6 matches or 7 matches on the card, which helped time fly by. And right now, it seems like WWE is hitting on all cylinders after they let go of that albatross known as Vincent Kennedy McMahon. But yeah, it was an enjoyable show.
Scooter?
I think this is another brilliant example of how WWE is presenting solid shows right up until the main event. Again, the show top to bottom was good, and the main event itself was a great match, maybe one of Drew and Roman's best. But are you protecting his title reign at this point rather than, give any superstar from the UK a win? No superstars from the UK won.
Are we talking about the Worlds Collide, or are we talking about this one?
Both.
On this show, only one European. You're right. No UK star won. Only a European one, and that would be Gunther. Everybody else. Yeah. But again, like, you're right. For me as a fan, I'm honestly enjoying everything that Roman Reigns does. But honestly, it's becoming a little stale. The whole bloodline helping him out, this, that, and the third. It would have, if this was the time for a title change, it should have been on this show. It's in Drew's backyard. The first time they've been back there in 30 years. Remember, he won the title during that whole pandemic WrestleMania thing where nobody kind of was in the arena and nobody saw it kind of thing. So this would have been the perfect time to have him win the belt. And then if you wanted to do something where Roman gets his, not comeuppance, but gets Paul Heyman involved in some legal battle that he didn't really defend both belts, he only defended one, so Drew's only, like, say, the WWE champion, so it spins that belt over to another show because Raw doesn't have a champion right now. Some kind of convoluted way you could have did it, but you're right. Like, top to bottom, they do great stuff, but when you get to the main event, it's becoming stale because it's rinse repeat over again with Roman Reigns. Now the character, mind you, promo work is great, the bloodline is great. who they added to the bloodline is great, but I'm just getting tired of him kind of handcuffing both titles.
Alright, let's get into the show. Damage control. Bailey, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky defeated Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka in 18 minutes and 44 seconds. Um, not a bad match. It was decent, but I felt like for the opener of the show, maybe not the best choice, and maybe a little too long. Your thoughts, Scooter?
Yeah, I'd I'd definitely say so. I think. I mean, it was a good opener. Um, would it have benefited the show more to do Bianca Bailey, you know, actual match? Um, Probably, uh, but they're laying the groundwork for Bailey and Bianca. I, I'm assuming it's a matter of when. I'm assuming it's Extreme Rules. Uh,
But doesn't that work better? Like, usually WWE just goes right into it. Okay, Bailey's back, let's give her a title match. And, they're kind of letting it breathe before we get there.
yeah, I could understand that. I mean, I could have also understood if you had Io and Dakota win the tag titles, and then the opener is for the women's tag titles and the Raw Women's title. One team wins and walks out with all the gold, and you can then even say Bailey won it the cheap way and didn't pin Bianca. It's it's a matter of perspective and semantics, essentially.
I don't know. What say you two?
Yeah, it was a decent opener, and I just think going forward, it's more long term storytelling more than anything else. I don't think it's as deep as Scooter's trying to make it out to be. I just think we're setting up the whole Bailey and Bianca situation, but we're doing it in a long term story booking situation.
How many, uh, how many stars would you give this, match, Drew?
I'll give it a solid 3 out of 5.
What say you, Scooter?
I'll I'll give it I'll give it 3.5.
2.5. Alright, next match, Gunther with Imperium, Ludwig Fraser, Giovanni Vinci, defeated Sheamus with the Brawling Brutes, Bridge Holland, and Bush. The match lasted 19 minutes and 33 seconds. Honestly, this was a great match, and it should have been the opener.
Ain't nobody gonna beat Ludwig Fraser. Ah, gonna
Because
rope
he
it up
tossed those
around.
salads and scrambled eggs.
Gonna see. You're thinking NBC Fraser. I'm thinking Joe Fraser. But is it really? I mean, can you really mistake Fraser for Kaiser? I mean, you ever had a good Kaiser role, James?
I think my insurance was Kaiser Permanente one time.
Um, clearly the biggest surprise is the reunion of Imperium. Uh, the, uh, the the quick time uh, Giovanni Vinci spent in NXT only to get called right back up. I guess I'd say the this event is the best thing to happen to uh, Vinci's career at this point. It put him back where he should be.
What say you, Drew?
I'm glad to see Imperium back together, and that's number one. But this match to me was honestly, I'm gonna say it out loud here and say that this was the match for me of the weekend. If we're talking across all three shows, this match, I was impressed by both. Gunther, we already knew what the artist formerly known as Walter could do, and Sheamus is one of those guys that been there so long, but he's a pro at it. But they, for the 20 minutes, they gave us what old school wrestling fans would love. It's just strictly, we're wrestlers, we're in a wrestling ring, let's wrestle.
All right, how many stars would you give this, Drew?
This is 5 stars for me. This is 5 stars.
What?
This was my match of the weekend. To be honest with you,
And that's saying something because there were some quality matches this week. What's the Drew? How many stars?
I I'm I'm gonna give it 4 because Sheamus could have won it. There would have been no harm in Sheamus winning the Intercontinental title. It makes the UK fans happy, makes band attendants happy. It gives Sheamus that missing accolade from his career, and you can and then you have reason to put to continue the Brawling Brutes versus Imperium storyline. Um,
If Sheamus won, would you have given it 5 stars?
I probably would have given it 4.5 at least.
All right. Well, I'll be the middleman and give it 4.5. All right. Next match up, we got Liv Morgan defending the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. She defeated Shayna Baszler in 11 minutes and 2 seconds. Honestly, this was a great outing and performance for Liv Morgan. Shayna was perfect, big bad for her to slay that, and she made it look believable that she actually was able to beat Shayna. And obviously, Shayna led Liv to maybe one of her best matches in her career. What say you, Drew?
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Everything that you said is 100%. Just to be honest with you, I really haven't been a fan of Liv Morgan. I don't know what they're trying to do with her. If she's a heel or a face, or I'm a little confused with the character work on her end. But in this match, like you said, everything that she did and everything that Shayna did to bring her to that level kind of takes that kind of negativity I have off a little bit to say, okay, if she can do that with Shayna, maybe she gets the rematch with Ronda, and that could be another top tier match.
You know, in all honesty, if anybody was heading toward, oh, this is she's gonna wrestle Carmelo next, so she could, get a couple wins under her belt. It was Liv Morgan. I appreciate that they're not going that route. But what say you, Scooter?
I mean, again, I think it's the fickle uh, fans of the WWE universe who are cheering her on one day and booing her the next week. Becky is right. They don't know what they want. Um, However, when it comes to Liv, we're we're expecting her to clearly get beaten every time, but she's this plucky, scrappy little underdog who pulls out the win, uh, you know, against all odds. And I mean, that's what they did here. I mean, Liv being able to beat Shayna on her own makes it at least look credible that Liv could possibly beat Ronda in one-on-one.
Drew, how many stars would you give this one?
I'm generous, 2.5.
Scooter,
I'll give it 3.
I'll give it 3.5. Alright, next match we got Edge and Rey Mysterio with Dominic Mysterio defeating the Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damon Priest, and Rhea Ripley in 12 minutes and 36 seconds. Um, Generic tag team match that could have been on a Raw or a SmackDown, but I mean, for what was what happened at the end, I understand why they did it right here and now. Um, what say you, Drew?
Yeah, the match is a generic match. It's something that we would see on a Raw or SmackDown, but it's what happened at the end of the match with the Dominic turn, which is kind of reminiscent of Eddie Guerrero turning on Rey Mysterio. If you look at the clothesline,
Because I just
um,
nailed that.
I'm glad that we we knew it was coming, the Dominic turn, but we didn't know exactly when it was coming, and I'm glad they did it here on this show because you imagine that plane ride back from Cardiff, Wales to the United States with Dominic and Ray. But like you said, decent match, but it was the story was more told after the match, so it is what it is.
Scooter?
I mean, we all know the real winner here is Dominic after he went back to his hotel room. Um,
Dr. Bow Wow.
yeah, as we know that Rhea made him a man. Um, I mean, I love that. The match generic, um, obviously, but I love the fact that Dominic is now essentially sporting the Eddie mullet, and I expect Dominic claiming Eddie as his father to play a big part in this storyline. Um, and if I was WWE, I'd see what about doing whatever I could to get Vicky away from AEW
Or maybe even Chavo.
or Chavo too. Yes,
Or, I don't believe Sol Guerrero is doing anything right now.
yes, but I think even Triple H passed on her.
Well, it's his sister, so. But major kudos to Edge because when he took that low blow, his facial expressions just sold that low blow even more than it was. And I am interested to see, you know, um, Dominic transform from Dominic Mysterio to Dominic 11 because he kind of looks like 11 from Things season 2. And I just think that's bitching. Alright, how many stars, Drew?
3 stars for this one.
Scooter.
Mm, Yeah, 3.
I'll give it 2. Um, Next match, Seth freaking Rollins versus Matt Riddle in 17 minutes and 22 seconds. Not a bad match, but I feel like Seth had better matches all year long. But that's maybe just my opinion. Drew?
I'm all for this feud. This feud reminds me of the Family Guy stuff with Peter Griffin and the Chicken. These two need to be, anytime they see each other, it's on site. We going at it. I don't care if who's the face, who's the heel. And I like the fact leading into the match on Raw where they did that whole split screen sit down interview, and we actually went into that real life area where this is why your wife left you and all that kind of stuff. I'm all for it. And match wise, yeah, Seth Rollins has had better matches over 2022 so far. To be honest with you, which 2022 is almost up, but he has. But with these two, I think these guys should feud forever.
What say you, Studo?
Feud forever. It was a great match. The 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 gimmick here is the psychology. Clearly, uh, and the wrestling is the co-star. Um, the idea that Matt Riddle, thank God he's Matt, is that there is two sides to Matt Riddle makes Riddle more interesting and more than just a one-note character. Um, the fact that Seth could bring that out of him and still take advantage of it, I think it earns Seth the nickname of the new cerebral assassin. Um, because it was a it really was. It was a great match. Riddle does have to get his comeuppance, and I'm assuming he will get it in some gimmick match at Extreme Rules. But yeah, this was a highlight.
Drew, how many stars?
This gets 4, but if Randy Orton came back and he was wearing SpongeBob SquarePants gear, it would have got 5 stars for me.
Studo.
I will give it. I'll give it solid 4.
I'll give it 3. Alright, and the main event, the match everybody went to see, the WWE Universal Undisputed Championship of the Galaxy, whatever it's called. Roman Reigns versus he defeated Drew McIntyre in 30 minutes and 47 seconds. Like you guys said, best Roman McIntyre match that they've ever had. Seeing that it's only 30 minutes, it felt longer. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was interested in all 30 minutes of it. Roman's just a polarizing figure at this point. Blue.
Like I said at the top, it's Roman Reigns' world, and we're just living in it in a sense. But this would have been the time to pull the trigger and make him lose the belt. It was the perfect backdrop for it to happen. I'm And it did seem longer than the 30 minutes, to be honest with you. And it's maybe because of all the other stuff with like Austin, I got my first name back theory, stuff with him potentially cashing in, and then you had Tyson Fury with the punch, and then you had another member of the Bloodline debut. So maybe all that extra stuff, including the match, kind of made it seem longer. But for those 30 minutes that they were in and around ringside, they entertained me immensely. And honestly, I want to see a rematch. And I actually want to see Drew be the one to beat Roman Reigns in my perfect world. But we all know this is setting up Roman to drop the belt to Cody, Dwight, Rhodes.
What's a you still?
Yes, one of Roman and Drew's best matches. The one thing Vince would never do is bank on an NXT call up at such a huge event. That's something Vince would never do. And having Solo Sikoa show up having Joe Uso show up as
With him over
with the possibility of people not knowing who he is, but yet because he looks so much like his brothers that people will think, oh, there was an Uso here all along. But it just shows the chances that the new administration is willing to take. I mean, hitting so many finishers and then losing to just one, I think is something that's being overdone, quite honestly. I think it's really about time Roman gets a new finisher. So many people are doing the spear. At this point, the one thing I ever agreed with Vince on was really one person should be doing, a certain move, and even that stopped after a while. I never knew American Pie was, a popular song to sing in a UK sporting event like Sweet Caroline at a Boston Red Sox game. But the fact that Fury was making Drew's loss into a celebration, the 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 meme I saw, all throughout this week was, oh, it's SummerSlam 1993 all over again, where Lex Luger wins by a countout, and all the balloons, and everybody comes out, they're hoisting him up on his shoulders. I'm like, he didn't win the title, guys. Yes. We know how the WWE is with, the hometown. Now it's home country, and
guilty by association.
Again, not even a disqualification.
Clean 1, 2, 3.
Oh, like that's just, it just bugs me to no end. You put so much into this, And even though all the UK superstars they had were from the other countries in the UK, not from Wales. Um, it it just it leaves a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and I hope when they do it again, because Triple H says it looks like it's a European pay-per-view is going to be a yearly thing now.
Oh god.
Um,
I'm not upset about that, but giving Drew a title match every time there's a youth pay-per-view just seems a little redundant.
I mean, I expect WrestleMania 41 to be announced from Wembley Stadium. Um, R.I.P. God Save the King, and um, it's yeah it yeah. If I'm an American wrestling fan and I'm new to watching it, I'm watching Tyson Fury and Drew McIntyre, and I'm familiar with Drew McIntyre. I kind of don't have an idea about who Tyson Fury is. I'd be looking at it as like, what in the blue hell is going on here? Like, it's it, it, it's just so bizarre.
How many stars would you give Drew McIntyre and Tyson Fury singing? Drew?
That's a negative. That's negative. I think I heard about it. I didn't see it, and I'm not going back to watch it. And yeah, I don't like the fact that you're capitalizing on somebody's loss. There should be some kind of dejection, some kind of pissed offness towards Drew McIntyre that he was at home and he lost. It's like the same thing. Remember when we saw Rock and Cena the first time was supposed to be the only time we saw it, and at the end of it, Rock's in the ring celebrating and Cena sitting on the rampway looking like crap. I couldn't beat this guy. Like that's how Drew should have looked leaving this show. I'm in my home. Not in my home country or whatever, but I'm in my area. The opportunity to dethrone the guy that's been the guy for the last year, has one of the longest championship reigns ever. And what do? You reduce him to singing with a former heavyweight champion of the world. It just it's just it's another thing that we'll probably talk about with the AEW stuff. It's what makes your product not look mainstream. You know what I mean? That's the problem. Like now it looks like a joke because they're not gonna Sports Center is not gonna play any highlights from Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. They're gonna play the highlight of the known boxer or former boxer, I think he's retired now, Tyson Fury, singing with Drew McIntyre. That's what they're gonna show. That's exactly what they're gonna show. So it makes Drew look like a joke. If Tyson Fury's coming in as a wrestler, it makes him look like a joke. And it's gonna be like that whole Cain Velasquez experiment that didn't go anywhere. Like it's like I'm sorry, there's certain things that WWE and Triple H and his regime are doing great, and I'm not knocking them for. But stuff like this, I don't need to see it.
Alright, Scooter, how many stars do you give the singing?
Um, is negative infinity a thing?
Yes it is.
Then negative infinity to the infinity power.
Alright, well, I'll be nice. I'll just give it 0 stars. Uh, all things considering, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Drew.
I'll give it a thumbs up.
Scooter.
I will give it a thumbs up.
I will also give it a thumbs up. Alright, that will conclude our coverage of Pass at the Castle. and we are wrestling with NXT Worlds Collide. We're not gonna go in depth. Um, it happened. That's all we can really say. Um, but a great match that you should definitely stop and go back and see is um the Ricochet. His name's not Christian Casanova anymore. It's Carmelo Hayes.
Carmelo Hayes.
The Ricochet Carmelo Hayes match definitely tore the house down. One of the more quality matches you would have seen this week. But other than that, it's pretty cut and dry, standard. Nothing changed, nothing new happened type um of show. Drew, did you catch it?
I caught that opening match, and I'm like, I took your recommendation and checked out Carmelo Hayes before he got to WWE, and I'm like, you guys are damn right. This guy's amazing. And then seeing his match with Ricochet to open the show, man, I'm like, damn, this guy is amazing. So yeah, that's what I caught, and like every other match, yeah, it was. And then the main event was something I would recommend as well. But other than that, to me, it was really a two-match show. Everything else beneath the opener and the main event was just something you would throw away on a regular Tuesday night of NXT.
Scooter?
Yeah, Ricochet, Carmelo. Clearly the highlight uh, of the show. Um, Other than that, completely predictable.
You're not wrong. Uh, like Drew, the main event was good, but it kind of just fell flat at the end for me personally. Um, but it's saying something when the three shows on this week that week, the only one that got the opener right was NXT, and I'll stand by that. That being said, I give this show thumbs in the middle. Not terrible, but not overly enjoyable. It was 2 hours, so I mean, it wasn't a bad way to spend 2 hours. So thumbs in the middle. Uh, Drew.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, James. It's a thumbs in the middle for me as well.
Scooter.
Yeah, it's a definite thumbs in the middle.
All right, that'll conclude our coverage of Worlds Collide. I think that was our shortest preview ever of all time.